Hey guys, this is Lottie, and this is my deck tech for the upgraded Endless Punishment Precon. This is my favorite deck. I love the theme of punishing your opponents and making sure that every action that they do is, taxed. And my play group loves this deck. They hate me for it, so let's get to it. So the commander of this deck is Valgavoth, Harrower of Souls. He is two colorless mana with one black and one red. Legendary creature, Elder Demon, Mythic, Flying, Ward, pay 2 life. Whenever an opponent loses life for the first time during each of their turns, put a +1/+1 counter on Valgavoth, Harrower of Souls, and draw a card. So we have a ton of Punisher effects in this deck. So each time those Punisher effects trigger, our commander will trigger as well. So we will get a +1/+1 counter, and we'll get to draw a card because of that. So this serves as our engine for the deck. We're gonna go ahead and start off with our Punisher effects, and then once we have those in place, we're gonna go ahead and play our commander, possibly turn 4 for turn 5 to draw cards from our Punisher effect. So, yep, we're going to go through the next card in our deck, which is going to be Obnixilis Captive Kingpin, Legendary Creature Demon, same mana cost as our commander. It can also be a commander in itself, but I'm choosing him as a backup demon or creature inside of our deck because I don't like the fact that we're exiling a lot of things. I experienced this in one of my games where I exiled 20 cards and I wasn't able to cast them all. So might be good in CEDH though. So yeah. So in Flying Trample, whenever one or more opponents each lose exactly 1 life, put a +1/+1 counter on Obnixilis Captive Kingpin. Exile the top card of your library until your next end step. You may play that card. So this is a very powerful card. Can go absolutely insane in the right decks. There was one situation where my Obnixilis went to 2020 and I exiled 20 cards that I wasn't able to use, and it was crazy. I took out one opponent because of its massive swing. And so yeah, really crazy with this deck. Next up, Lord of Pain. It's 3 colors mana, 1 black, 1 red, and legendary creature, human assassin. Your opponent can't gain life whenever a player casts their first spell each turn. Choose another target player. The Lord of Pain deals damage equal to that spell's mana value, so the chosen player. And it also has Menache. Really cool card. Fits the theme of the deck. And so, Karavik the Merciless, legendary creature, 5 colorless mana, 1 black, 1 red. Whenever an opponent casts a spell, Karavik the Merciless deals damage equal to the spell's mana value to any target. So, whenever they cast a spell, Karavik the Merciless hits them up with that spell's mana cost. Really cool stuff, really painful, especially when you get to the later ends of the game. He cost 7 mana, so you'll get to play him late game. And during that time, most of the players are at 20-ish life. So every spell they cast really hurts. Moving on. So we got Gleeful Arsonist. Whenever an opponent casts a non-creature spell, Gleeful Arsonist deals damage equal to its power to that player. The good thing about this one is that it has Undying. So when it gets removed, it comes back. Really cool stuff. So you got to exile it. Next up, Nightshade Harvester. 3 colors mana, 1 black. Whenever a land an opponent controls enter, that player loses 1 life. Put a +1/+1 counter on Nightshade Harvester. So if we can get to cast this at turn 2 with a Dark Ritual, it will go massive and people will have no choice but to remove it. And it also, early game, people, like to ramp. This one hurts. So yeah, really cool stuff. Next one, Scrawling Crawler. Artifact creature, 3 colorless mana, Phyrexian Construct. At the beginning of your upkeep, each player draws a card. Whenever an opponent draws a card, that player loses 1 life. So again, it's a Punisher effect, but it also rewards other players. So they're not that much inclined to get rid of it early on. So they'll like the fact that they're going to be drawing cards during my upkeep. So at least that's good. But the good thing about it is that they get damage. Usually it gets 5 damage before someone removes it. So really cool stuff. Yeah. Moving on, Razorkin Needlehead. Razorkin Needlehead has first strike during your turn, so it's a good blocker or attacker at that. And whenever an opponent draws a card, Razorkin Needlehead deals 1 damage to them. So again, another Punisher effect for drawing. Persistent Constrictor. At the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, they lose 1 life, and you put a -1/-1 counter on up to 1 target creature they control. So it is a removal, and also at the same time, it punishes players every turn for 1 life. And it also has Persist. So if it dies, it gets a -1/-1 counter. And it's a great card as well, because if it gets removed, it just comes back. Yeah. Mogus, God of Slaughter. 2 colorless mana, 1 black, 1 red. Legendary enchantment creature, God, indestructible. As long as your devotion to black and red is less than 7, Mogus isn't a creature. At the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, Mogus deals 2 damage to that player unless they sacrifice a creature. So it's a good removal spell, and also at the same time, it punishes players for 2 life each turn unless they sacrifice. And it's really up to them if they want to sacrifice or not. But for most players who don't have token decks, this is a great way for them to to worry about. And also, it has indestructible, which is really nice. You can't get rid of it unless you exile it. So, and if it becomes a creature, it's 7/5. Mogus, yeah. Group Slug. Fate Unraveler, enchantment creature Hag. 3 colorless mana, 1 black. Whenever an opponent draws a card, Fate Unraveler deals 1 damage to that player. Another Punisher effect, 3/4, so it's a good blocker as well. Pure Cataract Parasite, 1 black mana. Whenever an opponent draws a card, if you control a red permanent, you may have Cataract Parasite deal 1 damage to that player. Alright. Rampaging Ferocidon. Menache Dinosaur. 3/3. 2 colorless mana, 1 red. Players can't gain life. Whenever another creature enters, Rampaging Ferocidon deals 1 damage to that creature's controller. So for the people who likes to play creatures or tokens, this one's for you. And also, can't gain life. So, really nice. Massacre Worm. So these are the creatures that we're going to be using for crowd control. Whenever Massacre Worm enters, creatures your opponent controls get -2/-2 until end of turn. Whenever a creature an opponent control dies, that player loses 2 life. So if it's a board wipe, for those low-lying creatures, and also at the same time, if players like to sacrifice creatures, they get punished for that too because of this. So it's really good. Massacre Girl. Menache. Legendary creature, human assassin, 3 colorless mana, 2 black pips. When Massacre Girl enters, each other creature gets -1/-1 until end of turn. Whenever a creature dies this turn, each creature other than Massacre Girl gets -1/-1 until end of turn. So it's a really good board wipe. It goes through a lot of indestructibility nowadays, so I really like it. And if there's enough creatures on the board, it can get rid of everything. So pretty cool stuff. Next, Unstoppable Slasher. Creature zombie assassin, 2 colors mana, 1 black pip, Death Touch. Whenever Unstoppable Slasher deals combat damage to a player, they lose half their life rounded up. When Unstoppable Slasher dies, if it had no counters on it, return it to the battlefield tapped under its owner's control with 2 stun counters on it. So it's a great card. It combos with one other card inside this deck, and so it's a great card because if your opponents don't respect it, half of their life gets lost. So neat, neat stuff. Really, really hateful card. All right, so Obosh the Prey Piercer. Companion, your starting deck contains only cards with odd converted mana costs and land cards. So we don't have to worry about that. But the thing that we do worry about is if a source you control with an odd converted mana cost would deal damage to a permanent or player, it deals double that damage to that permanent or player instead. So a lot of our cards here, a lot of our Punisher cards are 3 or odd mana costs. So it goes crazy with those cards. So it's it's a debate. I like the theme of the card, so I'm keeping it here. But I think there are better options for this mana cost. So 5 mana is a lot, but it's a creature. It's a body. Carter Doomscourge. When Carter Doomscourge enters, until your next turn, creatures your opponent control attack each turn if able. So it's a pretty great good effect. So when there's a lot of creatures on board and you draw this, people will hate you because politicking is not allowed with this card because people will get attacked no matter what. All right, Tree of Perdition. This is really cool. Exchange target opponent's life total with this creature's toughness. So it has toughness 13, and if you are able to draw this card on turn 4 and drop it, and no one has removal, they're not going to be having a good time next turn. Sire of Insanity. At the beginning of each end step, each player discards his or her hand. So if we're able to go ahead and play like 2 or 3 Punisher effects, and then we drop Sire of Insanity, it's going to lock the board and no one will be able to remove those Punisher effects that we have set in place. So it's a really good Stax card, I think, that we can put inside of our deck that will really allow us to lock the board and keep those Punisher effects alive, making our opponents miserable. All right, next, Runescarred Demon. Flying. When this creature enters, search your library for a card, put it into your hand, then shuffle it. Really self-explanatory. We don't have a lot of money for expensive tutors, and this is a good card. The tutor's a card for you, and it's a body, 6/6 flying. Nothing more can be said. Obnixilis, the Hate Twisted. There's a lot of Obnixilis cards here. Whenever an opponent draws a card, Obnixilis, the Hate Twisted deals 1 damage to that player. Destroy target creature its controller draws 2 cards. So there's a lot of synergy here. One, it's a Punisher for a draw effect. So there's I believe 3 or 4 or 5 cards here that punish you for drawing. And also, when it destroys a card, that player draws 2 cards. So it punishes that player for drawing. So it's really cool. Next, Chandra, Awakened Inferno. This spell cannot be countered. Each opponent gets an emblem with, at the beginning of your upkeep, this emblem deals 1 damage to you. So if no one can take care of Chandra, the first skill that he has will go crazy, and it will start hitting people for 3 damage each turn. And also, the ultimate here is Chandra Awakened Inferno deals X damage to target creature or planeswalker. If a permanent dealt damage this way would die this turn, exile it instead. So you can if you want, turn 1, drop this, you +2 it, and then the next turn you can minus X it, and it will deal X amount of damage to a planeswalker or a creature that you're problematic with. Because once it goes down and does the first emblem thing, it has done its job, because at that point you can again play Valgavoth the next turn, and you'd have like an engine going already, because there's a consistent 1 damage every turn for our opponents. Yeah, works really well with our commander. Next, here are our enchantments, starting off with Underworld Dreams. Whenever an opponent draws a card, Underworld Dreams deals 1 damage to that player. The 3 black pips is kind of painful to cast, but I'm keeping it because it's part of the theme. Spiteful Visions. At the beginning of each player's draw step, that player draws an additional card. Whenever a player draws a card, Spiteful Vision deals 1 damage to that player. Again, another Punisher effect for drawing. Okay, Roiling Vortex. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, Roiling Vortex deals 1 damage to them. Whenever a player casts a spell, if no mana was spent to cast that spell, Roiling Vortex deals 5 damage to that player. Your opponents can't gain life this turn. So it's a really great card, consistent damage, low mana cost. It deals damage to you though, so you just have to be careful with that. But it takes care of people who like to play spells for free as well. And the can't gain life is pretty good in some situations. Yeah. Sulfuric Vortex. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, Sulfuric Vortex deals 2 damage to that player. Again, there's no gain life effect. The mana cost here is now 3 though, but it deals 2 damage to that player instead. So if you're able to drop that turn 3, it's gonna expedite the game real fast, and people will start to hate you. All right, moving on. Wound Reflection. At the beginning of each turn, each opponent loses life equal to the life he or she lost this turn. So with a lot of our Punisher effects taking effect here, this will double that basically. Yeah. All right, moving on. Okay, Spiked Corridor. We're not gonna be concerned about that, but we are here for Torture Pit. If a source you control would deal non-combat damage to an opponent, it deals that much damage. So the 1 damage is still there for most of our Punisher effects. So it still affects Ob Nixilis. But this time, with this card in play, it adds 2 damage instead. So 1, the initial damage, and then +2. So really cool card. Blood Moon. Non-basic lands are mountains. So again, our goal for the deck is to play as much Punisher effects as possible and then lock the board. That's how we're going to win. So if we're able to go ahead and play a Blood Moon, our opponents who have greedy mana bases, our opponents who have utility lands, Blood Moon locks them out of that. So really good card. Phyrexian Arena. Again, this is up for debate, but for now, this is a good card for me to add inside of our deck because it, turbo ramps us with cards. But we just gotta be careful. If we have Spiteful Visions in play, this is gonna hurt. Moving on. Tainted Ether. Whenever a creature comes into play, its controller sacrifices a creature or land. So, again, for the people who like to play creatures or token creatures, this is going to hurt them. This is going to hurt them because it will force them to sacrifice another creature every time they want to play a card or a creature, or, a land. So, really good card to lock the board out. Spell Shock. Whenever any player successfully casts a spell, any spell, Spell Shock deals 2 damage to him or her. So this includes us, so we gotta be careful. If we play this, we gotta make sure that everything is in play and that we're ready to stay put and stay, we stay on hold. So yeah, just wait for them to get rid of this. Yeah, because it's gonna hurt. It's gonna hurt us too. Yeah. Painful Quandary. Whenever an opponent casts a spell, that player loses 5 life unless they discard a card. This is really, really painful because imagine if we have a. Where's that card? If we have a Sire of Insanity in play and we have a Painful Quandary, what's going to happen is people are just going to top that things. And if they decide to cast that, they won't be able to discard a card. So they automatically lose 5 life just for casting that spell that they top decked. So pretty painful combo there. All right. Next up, Meat Hook Massacre. Okay, again, this is for the people who likes to do aristocrats, people who like to do board wipes. So just imagine if there's a bunch of creatures on board and you have Meat Hook Massacre in play, and you decide to do a board wipe. Everyone will have to pay 3 life in order for them to make that card not appear on my board, because what it says, we really don't care about the X part because it's too expensive at that point. But again, if you have enough mana, it has some utility. But at 4 black pips, whenever a creature you control dies, you may pay 3 life. If you do, return that card under your control with a finality counter. So if you have if you have your commander in play, this will allow you to re-put your commander in play, and without the commander tax. Also, since we don't run recursion in this deck, this will allow us to recur at least some of our creatures. But the last text here is, whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, they may pay 3 life. If they don't, return that card under your control with a finality counter. So this is really great because it doesn't mention anything about the card hitting the graveyard first. If it dies, they may pay 3 life. It doesn't hit the graveyard, so that's big. So if a commander dies, they would have to pay 3 life. I'm not so sure about that, if it works with commanders, but again, it works for other creatures, so that's the most important part. So moving on. Enchanter's Bane. This is just enchantment hate for people who likes to do enchantments as well as me. If someone has a big enchantment in play, this is going to hurt them so bad. Everlasting Torment. Players can't gain life. Again, this is just another can't gain life situation. The problem with this deck is you're trying to outpace your opponents, right? You're losing life, they're losing life. You got to make sure that they're losing more life than you. So one thing that will prevent that, or that will stymie our goal for the deck is if people gain life. So this just makes sure that that doesn't happen. And also, if there's any damage that is dealt, it's going to be withered. So it's going to go through indestructibles. Really cool stuff. Okay, so here are our instant packages. Hero's Downfall, pretty cheap card. Destroy target creature or planeswalker. Terminate, everyone knows that. Rakdos Charm, exile target player's graveyard, utility there. Destroy target artifact. Each creature deals 1 damage to each controller. We don't have a lot of creatures in this deck, and we don't run a lot of tokens. So if a person goes infinite with elves, this will hurt. Grievous Wound. Enchanted player can't gain life. If someone is a life gain deck, we slap this on to them, they're not going to be gaining life. And also, if we deal damage to them, which for sure we can deal damage to them, they will lose half their life. And Vraska's Contempt, again, another card that will allow us to, exile a creature or planeswalker. Destroy target creature or planeswalker, Dreadbore. Chaos Warp. This is a very good utility card that will allow us to get rid of anything that is crazy because it targets a permanent. Imp's Mischief. A utility spell. If someone counters anything, we can counter that. We can counter the counter spell. Yeah. Or if someone tutors a card, target player searches thingy. I don't think we can do that, but yeah. A good utility card. Untimely Malfunction. Destroy target artifact. Change the target of a spell or ability with a single target. 1 or 2 target creatures can't block this turn. So, a good utility card. It's better than an Imp's Mischief because it allows you to target an ability. This one is only a spell. So, yeah. Dark Ritual, just ramp. Bedevil, destroy target artifact, creature, or planeswalker. Okay, sorceries. Blasphemous Act. So it's a good card that will allow us to wipe the board for cheap. Blasphemous Edict, another one, allows us to make our opponents sacrifice creatures. Feed the Swarm. This is one of the few enchantment hate cards in black, so we gotta have that. Knight's Whisper. Draw 2 cards and you lose 2 life. We could have better draw spells, but this is cheap, so we have it here. Another cheap card, a Tutor. I don't have it in English, so I'll have. You all know what this does, right? Peer into the Abyss. Now, this is one of our biggest combo pieces because if you remember, we have several cards that punish our opponents for drawing. And if we're able to cast this on someone while those Punisher effects are in play, they're gonna be losing the game because target player draws cards equal to half the number of cards in their library and who loses half their life. And in Commander, we got 100 cards. And if we're able to cast this on turn 7, turn 8, right, they're going to be losing the game immediately. Because each time they're going to be drawing a card, it's going to deal damage to them. So let's just say, for example, the player has 75 cards left or 80 cards left in their library, and we make them draw 40. It's going to deal 40 damage to them instantly. Plus, if they're a mill deck and they only have 20 cards left in their library, this makes them lose half of their life. So half 40 is 20. They draw 20. They're still dead. Really cool card. Goes well with our deck. Obliterate. My pod hates this. Obliterate is a sorcery. 8 to cast. 6 colorless, 2 red. Obliterate can't be countered. Destroy all artifacts, creatures, and lands. They cannot be regenerated. So if we cast this, the only way for them to interact with it is to do Teferis, or they can put indestructible on their permanents. But the goal here is if we have those Punisher effects in play, notice that this does not get rid of enchantments or planeswalkers. So if we cast this, it's gonna lock the board, allowing us to win in a few turns. So it's gonna draw a lot of hate, so be careful. Okay, finally our ramp cards. So Soul Ring, and everybody knows that. We got Arcane Signet, Felwar Stone, Rakdos Signet, Talisman of Indulgence, Thought Vessel, Mind Stone because it allows you to draw a card, Basilisk Color for that lifelink. We could upgrade this into what do you call that? The spear that gets rid of indestructible and hexproof, and also has lifelink. We could go that route. Shadow Spear, I think. We could go that route, but it's expensive, so we'll keep this one. It's for life gain because our commander gets big, Obnixilis gets big, The Lord of Pain deals damage, so every time it deals damage, we get life linked. So really cool card. Goes well with our deck. Command Tower. These are our lands. Path to Ancestry, Exotic Orchard, Valgavoth's Lair for the theme. Ash Barrens, Witch Clinic because it has lifelink until end of turn for your commander. Shivan Gorge, if we don't have any Punisher effects and we have Valgavoth in play, this could be our draw for that. Tainted Peak, Shadow Blood Ridge, Geothermal Bog, Rakdos Guildgate. Yeah, our land base could use some improvement. Smoldering Marsh, Canyon Slow, Sulphur Springs, Blackcleave Cliffs, Temple of Malice, Raven Cairns, Foreboding Ruins, Bloodfell Caves, and our swamp. So we got 1, 2. I try to collect Phyrexian land. So 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 swamps. And then the last of our cards are 1, 2, 3. Oh, we got 11 swamps. Sorry. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 mountains. So that's the deck. I hope you liked it. If you have any suggestions for cards for my Endless Punishment Precon, upgraded to bracket 4. I know it's missing Orcish Bowmasters and Shieldred and I don't know, a few more cards, but those are really, really expensive and I can't afford them right now. So I'll leave it at that. But in any case, thank you so much for watching. If you have any comments, please share them. If you have any improvements for the deck, they are open. Yeah, I'd love to hear them. Thank you. Bye.